The first piece of academic research looking into how we might be able to de-radicalize some incels has now been released, and it focused on two different subreddits that deal with incels and the transition back to a, I would say, healthy, psychologically healthy, emotionally healthy, non-misogynistic lifestyle. This is r/IncelExit and r/ExRedPill. And both of them can be used to help de-radicalize men drawn to the ideology of the incels. One has over 14,000 subscribers, the other nearly 20,000. And these subreddits are apparently populated by many individuals who are searching for a pathway out of what is known as the manosphere, a collection of online spaces known for misogyny and opposition to feminism. And they found the report, or at least a summary of it, is available online if you want the details. Vice is a great write-up of some of the baseline findings of this research. Found that there were some potential benefits, and some people were finding it to be a helpful tool in de-radicalizing from those ideologies. I want to give you just a little bit of what Joshua Thorburn had to say, or author of the report. Says some individuals do appear to succeed in going from a very misogynistic outlook to a progressive or feminist worldview. Some former incels and red pillars appear to have become unexpected allies in the feminist movement, but de-radicalization is not a simple, linear, or guaranteed process for the individuals who participate in this forum. And we're gonna give you a little bit more of what they had to say about it, as well as what some of the individuals interacting on those subreddits have to say about it. But this has been a pretty squirrely problem, Jessica. It's been, I don't know when the whole incel thing sort of became a named, identified thing, but it's got to be at least 5 or 6 years at this point. And it seems to have at least as much power and cultural cachet as it did for them. So good to see that there are at least some people who are coming up with pathways out of it.
Yeah, it's necessary because I think for a lot of folks who are incels, they grew up in a society where there are these beauty standards and standards of relationships. And a lot of these things have to do with capitalism and patriarchy, which are also, the point of focus for feminists. So it makes sense that the switch is not, I was an incel and now I'm, somewhere in the middle on the matter. It's, I went from being an incel, being against feminists, to actually becoming one, because it turns out our enemy is the same. Imagine that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not personally familiar with these subreddits. I imagine it's helpful to have a different sort of support structure. I mean, one of the things that has always bothered me the most about the incel movement is some of these men have legitimate ways they've been left behind or failed, systems of support that should exist in our culture that don't. And that is bad enough. And it would be bad enough to just be that and have nobody. But when you then surround yourself with a bunch of people who want you to be worse, like an unsupport structure, that say that all of this stuff, this rage that you're feeling, the jealousy and the hatred and the fear of women and all of that, you should have more of that and you should act on that. And obviously different incels will disagree on, to what level they're rabidly misogynistic or aspire to violence and all that. But it's the group effect of encouraging people to be worse that not only fails these individuals who in many cases actually need and deserve help, but then also has this negative impact on, American society more broadly.
Yeah, as a creator who has made content, I did this series on TikTok, Things Men Do That Annoy Women, which was supposed to be super helpful. A lot of it was just microaggressions and casual conversations in the workplace. But some of it was
what's
just
an example?
When you're in a meeting and a woman says an idea and then a man repeats it and suddenly everybody listens to him. If you're a man in the room and you notice this happen, say something, maybe just listen to women's ideas when they speak, stuff like that. An example for dating or relationships was when we're organizing a date or a hangout and it's so you get a text all right, I'm going to this place at this time. And you're like, all right, so is this an invite? Do you want me to come? And then it's, if you want to, it's if you want me to come there, invite me, extend the invitation. But it's this fear of rejection. I think that's why a lot of, men might not do that. But it's basically tips, and it pissed off a lot of men online. I started getting threatening emails constantly, and it escalated to the extent that my email did get hacked, probably by one of these people that was sending threatening emails, threatening that they would find me in person. And then my apartment got broken into twice because I'd recently sent invoices with my address on it. So I had to leave an apartment.
Oh, no.
Likely because of this kind of content I was posting, likely someone who identifies with these communities. And I just had this empathy of like, how lonely do you have to be? What happened in society for a person to get to this point? And when you look at it like that, that's where I think we can, approach the realm of, all right, how do we change the world and not just expect people to learn on their own and realize this is a larger problem.
Yeah, I love that you have empathy for the people who are breaking into your apartment. Then it gets personal to me. But yeah, I understand that. I mean, you have to be deeply fundamentally broken to respond in that way to advice. Like literally, like they must know on some level. I think they like explicitly know that the advice they're getting from other incels is not going to solve their problem. A lot of the activity is not even based around solving. It's sort of reveling in it and being angry or whatever. So when someone is actually trying to help you, like maybe listen. And I'm not saying everything presented as advice is presented in good faith, but Jessica's cool. You can listen to her probably.
There was a little bit of sarcasm there. We have all these podcasts of guys like, oh, here's how to pick up chicks. So there was a little bit of, I don't think they liked my sarcastic tone, but I was really emulating what I see men doing.
Yeah, geez. Anyway, to give you a little bit more details about this, they say that posts demonstrate that individuals were coming there at a period of intense personal difficulty and like looking to get through that period in a more positive way rather than just descend down into a deeper darkness. They had some individuals who posting things like probably the first good day in 2 months, or other people saying this is a very positive step, so they're being positive. Some had posted about successful dates or getting back into hobbies like music rather than focusing exclusively on incel like forums and things like that. But they did have some difficulty. There was one individual who said, "Is there any mind tricks I can use to stop assuming Chads run the world? I can't get around it. I just start getting angry and my coping mechanism is gone. I want to get therapy, but I can't seem weak to my parents." I don't know this person's parents. I don't know if they would think that going to therapy is weak. If so, that sucks. And also, don't tell them maybe, I don't know. Like it sucks that you would have to try to improve yourself in a way that you would have to hide it all. But the important thing is that you get better. So that would be my advice. And that's not delivered with any sarcasm, Jessica. I mean it.
Yeah, I mean, just this perception that Chads run the world is really interesting to me. I don't know, because I don't think twice about Chads, right? I mean, my advice is just to listen to Beyonce's song, Who Runs the World? It's girls, it turns out. Beyonce has done academic research as well on the matter and has concluded it's not Chads, it is girls.
Yeah, I don't know. When I look around at the sort of people who run the world, it's like Elon Musk and Donald Trump. It's like there's something, but they're not the Chads that you pretend that they are. They're actually much more like some of the people in the forum with you, honestly. Anyway, by the way, I did want to also say that these researchers, and if you're really interested in this, you should definitely look it up. They're also, I think, sober about some of the limitations of these spaces. They say that many users go on to disavow the manosphere, but the underlying sense of entitlement to sex with women does not necessarily dissipate. And some use the space, obviously, for bad faith discussions. Really? On the internet? But anyway, yeah, it is difficult when you have convinced people that they're victims and their victimhood entitles them not just to sex, but also rage and maybe violence. That is a very tempting brew for people who feel left behind. It is difficult to get them to transcend that. That combination of deep desire for women, but also despising them in a lot of ways and feeling like they're the cause of their problems. That seems tough to get past, apparently, based on how these incels act. I don't know. Any other thoughts before we move on?
Yeah, it seems good, like a supportive community, but what's like the barrier to entry there? Like, how do you end up in one of these Reddit spaces? I think that's the main thing.
Yeah. I mean, you'd have to be willing to make that leap. It is difficult. But there do have to be efforts from people, like maybe people, I don't know, like you're a woman and you don't hate men. I know that many incels believe that you do and don't want them to have any power or whatever. Like you are a better source for information, or like I would offer myself up as, I don't know, like a guy who's relatively happy and I have a wife and we're happy together. Like maybe we are better sources for information than a bunch of people who fantasize about shooting up a massage parlor or something. I don't know.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.